Hello everybody, and welcome to another airbrush form class. This is brought to you by the Airbrush Forum, and we have a couple of shameless sponsors. We have Wicked Paint this week and Badger Airbrush. This week we're going to be airbrushing a canvas of the king himself, Elvis Presley. The last couple of weeks we've been slowly getting more and more into details on how to do skulls, how to airbrush feathers and other stuff, to where we're adding a little bit of color, a little bit of black and white stuff, a little bit of detail. What we're trying to do is slowly get you guys into the advanced mode of airbrushing. Basically not having a fear of airbrushing anything. What it comes down to is control on the airbrush and understanding highlighting and shadowing. So with highlighting and shadowing, you can make something completely flat and round into a sphere. You can take something square and make it look like it's dimensional off an object. We're going to go into the structure of the face, which in reality is nothing but what we've already done. You have lips, which is basically a slight cylinder. You have a cheekbone here, which will give you your slight sphere. You have your eyes, which are spheres. You have dagger strokes, which is basically based off our idea of the palm tree leaves. So when you start getting into a portrait, you start realizing that we've already done all this. There's nothing new here. This is something that we've been touching bases on throughout all of the airbrushing skills. There are soft lines, there's hard lines, there's very slight differences in between highlights and shadowing, really soft graduations of colors, gradations. So we're going to work on this from our light to dark. We're going to start just like we did on the skull. We're going to start with just a color real close to the white, and we're going to slowly start building it up, so that way you have tons of time to sit there and constantly alter it. Now here's a problem that I have been having with the people that have been following along. They're not posting their results. If so, then they're not following along. We have a couple of people that did the black t-shirt. We have a couple of people that did the white skull on the white surface. So what's happening is it's making it to where I don't know what to teach you guys. I don't know what's next on your guys' list. It makes it very hard for me to add to these classes to be able to continue pushing the envelope for you guys. So this is where participation from you guys is more important than what I'm actually teaching you. If I don't know what I'm teaching you, I can't help you. If I'm just doing classes here, then I might as well just be airbrushing and putting it up on YouTube. So what we're trying to do is make it to where it's a class that you guys have input. Now a lot of your input's going to be based on what you guys are actually doing. Everybody has questions, everybody has answers, everybody has an opinion. What I'm trying to do is take something that I see and see where I can actually make these classes a little more geared towards the student that wants to learn. If nobody follows along, is there a student there? To me, following along is not watching me airbrush. That's not participation. I can do that on YouTube, I can do that on my channel to where I have a whole bunch of viewers. This is a classroom. This is based on your guys' participating with me. It makes it hard to continue teaching these. So what I have to do is try to get it to where I can see what you guys are actually doing. Now, participating doesn't have to be during class time participating. But before you have a full week to do these projects that I'm basically spending 2 to 3 hours on. So in a full week, something should be able to be done, whether it's just a sketch on paper towels or something. It doesn't really matter. So what we need to do is try to get more people to follow along. Try to get more of the understanding of what these classes are about. So what I'd like to do is get on everybody to do these classes. Sit down and participate. If it's too advanced for you, try to do whatever I'm doing. If you can't do it, then I can go back into it and say, okay, we need to do this, this, and this. So it just helps me out, help you guys. So I already projected the image up, sat there and sketched it, basically just chicken scratched it really with the pencil. I go in and I add the lines that I need. I look at the image, and then even after I project it, I look at it and I missed a line here. So basically I'm just going to lightly sketch in this line. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure you don't make too dark of a line. It's easy to make the lines too dark. You don't need a dark line to follow. Just need a little bit of a line. Way to go, Knuckle Bucket. Alright, so have all this kind of sketched in, everything where I need to go. If there's something that looks like it's missing a little bit, I'll go in there and sketch that in. Don't worry about it if you miss a line. It's easy to just add them in when you're sitting there working on it. Some people like to sketch out the whole entire image and get it all drawn out. I just kind of like reference point lines. I'll sketch it all out while I'm airbrushing it. Just a little something to let me know positioning of where the nose is, where the eyes are, where everything is on the canvas. So I'd like a thumbs up on those that are following along. Following along would be airbrushing with me. Alright, so we got a couple people following along. Alright. Now the way I start doing portraits is I will take colors. This one we're going to do in black and white, just like the reference. And I take my Wicked colors and I'll mix them up in 3 separate grays. You have a light gray, a medium gray, and a dark gray. So we have our three bases of grays. Now the grays that I make are 50% 50% transparent base. Then I add my 25% white and my 25% black, and that would be my darkest gray. Then I drop it down from there. Now Wicked, you don't have transparents or non-transparents with Wicked. Wicked are just the colors. Now if you want a transparent, you add a transparent base. Or you reduce it down more. I like mixing it in a transparent base so I keep the same viscosity so it's not real thin and trying to spider out on me. And that gives me the reduced down version of it. And I like pre-mixing all of my colors first. Okay, what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to take my whole canvas and spray it with the white, Wicked white. Now what I'm doing is making sure I clean up any dirt that's on my canvas, any texture, any fingerprints, anything like that. I'm basically blowing over it. Okay, I'm also starting my white shift. Wicked white is a real blue white. Wicked black is a real blue black. So what this does is help start that shift already. Okay, now if you notice, my canvas has a little bit of dimension here. Some canvases are considered frameless canvases. A lot of people don't like putting their canvas in a frame. So when you do this, make sure you spray the edges. It's very important to get those edges painted up. When you do the hair coming off the edge, make sure you wrap that corner. Make sure you get that edge on that canvas so when you're done, you're not sitting there trying to go back in and adjust it. So what I'm doing right now is I'm covering up as much of my pencil sketch as possible. I don't want to get rid of it completely, but I do want to get rid of it. Now I'm using white that I reduced with 4011, almost 1-to-1. And I've reduced this up probably 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago. I like reducing Wicked way before I'm going to use it. What I noticed with Wicked is the longer you can reduce it for previously, the smoother it will spray. Now, I've heard people say that they've had gelling up issues. It might be a bad batch of reducer. Or it could be that you're trying to use Auto Air with a wicked reducer, or Createx with a wicked reducer. Okay, now my pencil lines are very soft gray now. Now you can do this with sealer if you wanted to. You can hit it with a sealer white. So if you wanted to use sealer, you can use sealer. One thing nice about spraying the whole entire canvas with Wicked already is Wicked likes to work with Wicked. So you don't get any of that weird spidering problems and stuff like that when you already have some of the base down already. What that does is it helps the two paints work with each other. It kind of helps bind, and it adds a surface tension to it. If you've ever sprayed on glass, you've noticed that when I try to spray on a piece of glass, the paint sits there and tries to do a spidering look to it. Now once you build up that layer, then it's easier to go in there and work on top of that, because it's working on top of paint, not on a non-porous surface. So when you're working, this is reduced 1:1, and you can see that you can get pretty decent lines even on a piece of glass. So the Wicked paint's a very good paint to go with. Flows really nice. So if you notice, a lot of the top artists have switched over to Wicked, using Wicked instead of urethanes, trying to get out of that urethane market. If you're over in Europe, it's hard to get urethanes, so it's a good thing that that the chemist and the owner of Wicked are really trying to step up the market with their paints. So, alright. Okay, I've sprayed this down with white. Now I'll show you basically what my sketch looks like now. See how soft that is now? You could barely see it. The pencil lines have pretty much really softened into the background, so now I don't have to worry so much about those pencil lines showing up as I'm going. Now, I don't work in buffer theories here. I work in transparency. So anything on the canvas prior to is going to show through. Okay. I take the 4011 reducer and I put it inside a bottle like this. So that way I can just put a couple drops in, not like the big bottle openings that they have. And I also, when I pre-mix up my paints, I like to pre-mix them up inside of twist style top bottles. This makes it to where it's easy to put a couple drops in. My whites in that, my black and white are in these bottles. I just mixed up before class my grays. So I didn't have tops for these yet. Now, some people like to start with the darkest colors first and then work their way light. But because I work in transparencies, it's a lot more difficult to work that way. It takes a lot more white to try to hide black. So I like to start with the light color and work my way darker. Now the reduction that I like going is probably a 1-to-1 reduction. Sometimes a little bit more depending on what I'm doing, how light the color is, how big of a contrast difference there is. Okay. That'll show you the 100% color of this gray that I'm using next. It's a little bit darker than what I normally would do, but this will speed up class a little bit. Just makes sure we have to have a little more control in our colors. Now if you look down here by his neck, it's all black. So I always like starting with the darkest area to see how my color looks on the color that I'm working on now. Now I'm pulling back and I'm not getting the speed that I want of coverage. It seems like I'm having to pull too far back for my taste, too far back. So what I'm going to do is pour a little bit out because I poured a little too much in. And I'm going to add a little bit of reducer in here to go a little bit thinner on it. And then either you can take your finger, if you're comfortable with this, you can take your finger, put it, what you do is you pinch the needle and pull the trigger, and that'll sit there and bubble it up inside the cup. Or you could take a paper towel, put it in front of the airbrush and just pull back. And what that does is that also will backfeed. Okay? So that's an easy way to get your reducer mixed up into your paint. Okay, I'm going to come back in here. Now you can see that I'm actually getting some coverage here. So I could come in here and make this the 100% color, which and you can see how quick that makes it gray. Which means we have to be careful with this color. It's a little bit more color changing and